KW Railroad was featured in Classic Toy Trains many years ago. Since that time, we've made a lot of scenery updates and not only changed some of our rolling stock out, changed the track plan slightly, added a piece to the back. But I thought what I'd do is I'd take this little video, combine it with some of the video we have of actually building the table and building the layout and building the mountains. And I thought that might in itself make a very interesting little piece. A nice little video to add to our collection of KW Railroad videos that most of them are out on YouTube already, and there'll be a few coming in the near future. I'll try to connect this. We're allowing 14 inches so that we can run a double main line around that side of the chimney. What do you think?
We're getting there, boss.
All the bracing on the legs here. We're going to start laying the stringers in one by one. What are you putting them on center? 12 inches?
I'm going to put them 12 inches on center.
Oh, we got that doubled. These doubled, pegged in from the side and from both, actually from both sides. And what we're going to actually wind up doing here is working our way toward the other end of the wall, making each stringer, each one has a custom angle on it and a custom side. All 5/4 wood.
The holiday sales racket and Shop Annie says for things.
Now each one of these, of course, has to get trimmed off as we go. Oh, we got the first part of the leg going out into the yard, what will be the yard. Boy, this guy picked some nice straight wood here, baby. Did a nice job on picking the wood on this. Okay, you gonna work on the stringers up on that end?
Right.
Okay. Everything here is on a dimmer switch that I can make dimmer, brighter. I have the yard area on a separate dimmer, the main area on a separate dimmer. So the next chance I get to work on this, I'm not sure if Mike is going to want to work on this weekend. We really only work on this on a weekend. But either way, I've got the templates made. I bought the track and the road bed, and I'm ready to start my first little adventure with Gargrave's track, Flex track. But tonight I had a little bit of time here while things were kind of quiet in the business. And what I did, I laid out the road bed. Now this is the first time I had used the cork road bed. I put it down with white glue. And I was very surprised how easy this was to do. It was relatively easy. And the next thing I'm going to do, of course, is the first time we've ever used the DCS, so we're getting used to all the new features. helper. His name is Freddie. He helps me do all the painting. One of the two birds that are on this Christmas. I'm babysitting that guy and my own bird, who's on my shoulder right now as I'm trying to do this. Anyway, I did the whole first coat of this with some gray. Main thing is that it's flat, and then I take a coating of white and then wipe it off with a wet rag. That seems to work real well. Paint is dry. Quiet, birds. I always look around and see if there's any little imperfections, and even if there is, it won't matter because we're going to put a second coat on this. And in the past, when I've built layouts and not done this, I've tried to do this while the parts were in place. It gets a little awkward, especially on a large layout like this where you can't access all of the parts as easily as possible. But what I found works just great. The flat white, it's just ordinary house paint. If the paint's going on too thick, a little bit of water seems to help. And I'm just going to do one spot here. I try to use an old brush so I can get in all of the little corners and edges. That's why nobody likes parrots. I have to babysit that guy actually for a friend. And once I get a little bit, just an ordinary wet rag, and I can get most of the extra off. And depending on how much cement or mortar I want to leave in the cracks. Now I'm being really careful with this, with the tunnels on this for clearances, and I want to make sure I have access, and I want to make sure everything inside the tunnel is either detailed or painted black. And you can, I'm not sure you can see how these look. When they're dry, the white just shows up right in the mortar cracks. All of the ones, when that's dry, it looks very realistic. I might even want to take a dry brush and just highlight a couple of the areas with a little bit of darker gray or black when it's done, but I want to get them detailed before I actually install them on the layout upstairs. Now I wound up figuring out how many more of these parts I need to cast up so I can get them all installed, and tomorrow we're going to try to get them installed. We have some airbrushing to do. I want to simulate the smoke stains on these, and we'll get them up and get them in position. Now the next step was to just roughly get these in some position similar to where we want to start laying out the mountains. I want to paint, of course, everything inside so you can see inside flat black. The thing is, inside the tunnel, inside the portal, we carry the same stonework inside and then just paint it flat black. We also have to figure out how far in. We're just going to have to do a little bit of the ballasting inside, so once we get inside the tunnel, once we seal that up, we're not going to be able to get in there and ballast as easy as if I did it now. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that right now. Got the little airbrush smoke stains. Kind of happy the way that the little portals came out. Went over in the yard area. Of course, I had to take into account the fact that we're building this in a very irregularly shaped room. Normally this wouldn't be a problem, but I had to make some pie slices here in these parts. And I want to continue to tunnel out in this direction. I want to wind up with two tunnel areas and with walls on the side, so as you look in, as you look from this angle, you can't see anything. Hopefully that's the black indicates the area that you can see when you're looking up into the tunnel. Again, a small detail. Really happy the way these stone things, I didn't know if they would look that good. I cast them all out of plaster. These are all plaster castings made from the original parts that we bought. We still have the original parts. Actually, this one here, we don't have the walls inside the tunnel yet, but once we have the walls inside the tunnel, it'll give it a lot nicer view as the locomotive comes around. And as it's going, the final thing is, before I do any real tunneling, is I'm going to make sure, again, I run the whole train through both ways on both tracks, because we're going to be doing some more switching. The next thing that's coming is another yard. Well, it's not a yard, it's going to be another route, another main line going off in this direction. And then down at this end, where we originally were going to make a coal mine, and we still make it. If I'm comfortable with the way the track plan looks from a lot of different angles, I've been walking around the room from several different angles, how the switches come together, and I really wanted to have the track working as well as possible before I move on to making some scenery. And I think we're closing in on that in the next day or so. What I tried to do is just lay out some of my train collection, some of the old Lionel stuff here, just to fill up some of the sidings. I wanted to just get a gut feeling for if I was going to be happy with the track work. Now what I did in the past day, I ordered the Del Air switch machines for all the switches, and I'll have to of course make a control panel and get an air tank. But basically the way the sidings look and the way they're worked out, I'm going to try to, again, I'm trying to plan the scenery in my mind. I want to give some industry here and some reason to back the train in here and back the train in here, and kind of like the look in the back there with some of the extra engines that I have. And of course I have the system wired so I can run DCS, or I can just convert right over to ZW power, so in a traditional transformer mode. But here we are, we're looking at the end of, well, I don't know, it's maybe a month or so of work, maybe a month and a half of work. And it's really starting to look like what I had envisioned, what I had hoped would happen. And I really do like the way when the scenery starts coming together, and I'm going to try to make some buildings of my own, some lakes, get some real special stuff going, stuff I have planned. But every night here before I go to bed, I just look up at thinking of this room. Not long ago it was just an empty room, and now every night I come up here and I have half hour, 45 minutes of running the trains and planning out what some of the next projects I'm going to be working on here are. And the thing that's really been the nicest surprise of the whole I guess building project here has been how well the Mike's Train House DCS has worked and how well these Ross switches have worked. They are just absolutely the Rolls Royce of switches, of any switches I've ever had. The switches and crossovers, it just glides through like it's literally like it's on rails. We start laying out some of the styrofoam cuts for the mountain just to see if I was going to be happy with this technique. I bought one sheet just until I see if I'm going to like working with this material. So far it looks pretty easy to work with, and I wanted to just lay out like a wedding cake. Maybe I'll get one whole mountain out of this sheet just to see what it looks like. I'm going to carve each layer, just rough it out individually, and then try to take it off of the layout and go outside and do some carving and sanding on it. This is the first time I've used it. I'm making paper patterns of everything just to save the cuts on the foam as I cut it. I don't want to waste any of this. It's about $9 a sheet for this. Right away is how dusty this stuff is. I tried cutting it with various knives. Finally wound up with using a hobby blade, a number 26 hobby blade. That seems to do the best cut, but I got to constantly be vacuuming up the dust because I'm working in not in an area where I want to have a lot of dust around. But it's going quickly, and I anticipate that soon. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue these four pieces together, and then I'm going to kind of do some rough shaping before I make the top. So I'm going to try to make it in two separate pieces, see if that's going to work out a little easier than that.